Hi, students. Good morning. Thank you for joining today's class as well. We are into our class number five. Oh, sorry. We have done 5 classes. So now we are into our class number six. Class number six. So as every day, we will be having agenda for today. But before that, I'd like to actually tell you, since we are done with 5 classes till now, you should be well versed to whatever we have learned till yesterday. You should be able to understand some basics of Java programming, how it works internally, how to write some basic Java code, what uh, what are the things that signify whenever we write code, etc., etc. There are a few things that you might not understand even now, and every time that occurs, I tell you that I'll be taking them in the further classes. So here we are in our class number 6, where we are stepping one step ahead to learn one more concept that we have already seen till now, but you do not know the actual things that you already know. So let me write it. What is the agenda for today? We will be learning about what is a method. What is a method? So I have been speaking about main method, right? So public static void main string array of args, that is a method. But today I'll be actually telling you, formally giving you a definition of what a method is. Okay. And then I'll say, why do we need methods? Okay. So these are the two things that we'll be learning. And along with this, I'll be speaking about static method declaration. declaration and and I'll be speaking about method static method usage. So whenever I say something about a method, you just need to uh what do you call get one thing into your mind. Let's say you get main method into your mind. We have been doing this since our day one. So what is the signature of it? Public static void main. And inside main method, we had string array of arguments. Okay. And then I have the open parenthesis and closed parenthesis. And here I used to write system.out.println statements, right? I would like to just say method body. So I'd like to just say method body. This is one such example. This is one such example of what a method is, So in simple terms, whenever you see a main method, there are a few things. I told you what was public, what was static, what was void, what is main, what is string array of args in the first or second class, if I'm not wrong. And we have a method body. But all these things we'll be discussing in a little bit more detail, in today's class. So before I go into the formal definitions, I want to do something like this. So let's say I go to my first program. Here you can see there is this my first program, and we have a main method, and inside I have printed 2 lines. My first Java program, I learned it today. Okay, there are 2 lines that I printed on line number 5 and 6. So here, what I'm actually telling you is my intention is to print 2 lines on the console, and this is the task. Let's say I want to do it in a chunk, right? I want to print these two lines on console. Now, let's say there are 10 lines on console. Okay, I can do it as well. Like, for example, let's say there are 20 lines in console. I can do it as well inside my main method, right? Inside my main method. So what I wanted to actually tell you is an informal way of telling you that if I have some set of tasks to be done, or some set of lines to be printed, I can club everything into a single chunk, and that I call as a method. Right? I would like to come to the formal definitions part. I'd like to come to the formal definitions part. Okay. I'd like to come to the formal definitions part. Let's go here. Let's go here and try to understand what a method is. Let me maximize so that everyone is able to see. Okay, so I'd like to come to the formal definitions part. What is a method? In Java, a method is a block of code that performs a specific task. So when I say in our example, I want to print 2 lines on my console, right? This is a specific task and I want to club this, right? So similarly in Java, a method is a block of code that performs a specific task. So now, where is the method defined? It is defined within a class. Method doesn't have any significance outside the class. It should be defined inside a class. Then you might be having a question, sir, what is a class? I do not know the details of class. See, we have a separate class only to explain you what a class is and what are the basics of it. So do not get worried that you do not have the details of what is a class. We have a separate class for it. So method is defined within a class. Now, another one is it can be called or invoked to execute that task. So method can be called to execute that task. Again, if I come to my old example, this main method is called by JVM, right? I have actually told you who is calling this main method. It is called by JVM and it is able to print these 2 lines. Similarly, if we have a method, a programmer can actually call that. Students, just give me a second. Just give me a second. I'll be on mute for 2 minutes. Uh, yeah, students, I'm back. Please confirm that you're able to hear me. Uh, you can react here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Let's continue. So what I wanted to tell you is, as per what the definition says, the definition says that it can be called to execute a particular task. Yes, we have a task and we as a programmer can call, or there is a method called main method that is called by JVM. I will tell you how the methods written by us can be called by us. Okay, I'll be telling you that in our today's class. Again, these are for interview perspective and even for our day-to-day understanding of Java code perspective. I'd like to actually tell you why do we need methods, right? This is our agenda for today. Okay, I told you what is a method. Now I'll tell you why do we need methods. So it is for code reusability. I have written a piece of code. It is write once, use multiple times, reduce redundancy. Redundancy is nothing but writing the same thing again and again. So if you do not want to do the same thing multiple times, you can put all that code into a method and you can reuse that. So that is called as code reusability. The other use is modularity. What is modularity, by the way? You can break down the program into smaller and manageable parts. What I wanted to tell over here is, like, for example, there is a piece of code that only prints 2 lines, right? You can put those into a print method, right? Like, for example, let's say there is a method that actually opens, like connects to a database and makes sure that server is ready to start. Server is ready to start. So what I can do is I can write a init method or initialization method, and I can do all the initialization related activities in that method. Right. Similarly, I can have a destroy method and say all the server destruction, or like when I say stop to a server, then along with that the database connection should be what you call removed, and many objects that we created should be garbage collection enabled, etc., etc. There are a few things that need to happen. You can put all of those into the destroy method. By the way, when I say garbage collection, when I say objects, when I say all these things, if you do not understand those things, there is no problem. I'll be telling about all these things in detail in this course, but only for you to understand that if there are any specific tasks, we can break them down and put it into smaller methods, and we can make our code modular. So let's say, what is the other thing that we need to do? I mean, we need to know about methods. It is a maintainability. Now, for example, one of you has been assigned a task. Like, let's say there are 20 students, let's say, and every 5 students have been made into different what you call groups. Now, let's say we are trying to make a calculator application, and I, as an instructor, told that I want 4 operations to be supported: addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. Let's say I give addition method to, let's say, 5 students, subtraction to 5 students, division to 5 students, and multiplication to 5 students. Now, the the whole application of a calculator will run only when all the 4 operations are up and running, right? So, but for each operation, I have given 5 students, right? In such a case, what I can do is I would tell them, just write a method for me in this class. You call that as add method, and you put all your logic in it. Similarly, I'll tell the other group of students, you just write subtraction method, you write subtract logic in it, and then you're done. So maybe after a week or so, I go to them and say, okay, give me all your 4 methods. Let's all club them into a single class so that our application is ready. So in that way, what is that? It is easier for us to update and fix the specific parts. Tomorrow, let's say we are taking this calculator application to production, or let's say to some other, like we are giving a demo to other person. And let's say we identify some bug in multiplication part. Now, instead of asking all the students to come and work on that bug, I can say that, okay, this 5 students have worked on the multiplication part. You go and fix that bug. So in that way, we can easily maintain it, we can easily update it, and we can only fix the specific parts instead of going and breaking our heads in the whole application. Okay. And the last one is readability. Whenever I see an add method, my mind tells me, oh, there is some addition logic inside it. Whenever I see destroy method, maybe my mind tells me that there is server destruction logic inside it. So just by seeing the method name, you can actually know, okay, this method contains this particular piece of code, might be, right? So that is something that gives you readability. Similarly, we have a main method, right? Main method, the moment you see the main method, what comes into your mind? It says, okay, there will be something called JVM that goes and calls my main method. So similarly, whenever you see main method, it is being called. My point I wanted to make is, whenever you name the method properly, okay, your human intuition tells you that this method is responsible for doing some tasks or some steps which are defined inside this method. Okay, so enough of theory. Let's go into action. But before I go into action, right, before I go into action, okay, we all know public static void main and there is a method body. I want to give you a small analogy. I want to give you some small real world example of what a method is, so that tomorrow when somebody asks you about method, you would actually remember about something so that you can easily form your sentences and what you call deliver your answers. Okay, so I would like to open, I'd like to open, I'd like to open, I'd like to go to this declarations later. I'd like to give you a small analogy. So let's say, let's say you go to a cafe, or like let's say you go to coffee day. Okay, you go to a good coffee shop. Okay, so that cafe you can call it as a class. That cafe, just for now, for time's sake, for timing, you think that it is a class. It is a class. It is a class. Now that class has multiple coffee machines. Let's say there are 4 to 5 coffee machines. Think that every coffee machine is like a method, is like a method. Okay, maybe one coffee machine is of a particular brand. Let's say Coffee Day. The other coffee machine is by Brew. Other coffee machine is by Nestle. Just think that there are multiple coffee machines over there, and think that every coffee machine is a method. Is a method. It will perform a particular task. What is that task? What is that task? It is to prepare coffee for you and give it to you. It is to prepare coffee for you and give it to you. Okay. So we have a cafe, which is a class, and we have a coffee machine, which is a method, which is a method. Now, buttons, there are different buttons on a coffee machine, right? There are different buttons on a coffee machine. Let's say cappuccino, espresso, like there are different buttons when you, or you can click on tea, you can click on milk. There are different buttons, right? You can think every button is like a method name. Every button is like a method name. Like for example, I want to get a cappuccino coffee. So when I click on cappuccino, it does all its internal work and finally gives me the cappuccino coffee, right? It indicates that there is a task that needs to be done and we need to invoke it, right? Method, we have to invoke it. And you can think that every button is like a method name, method name. Now, what are the ingredients? So here in our method, we have string array of args. These are called as arguments, or these are called as parameters. So similarly, ingredients in a coffee machine example are like ingredients. Like for me to prepare cappuccino, I need milk, I need coffee beans, I need sugar, I need some water. I need all these to be mixed well to get the coffee that I want. So ingredients are like parameters, right? In our example, string array of args is the parameters. Is the parameters. And brewing process is like a method body. Like for example, I just clicked on cappuccino. Internally, there are so many things. What is the method body, by the way? Method body is like, for example, we write system.out.println statements, or we write initialization logic, destruction logic. All this is the method body. So similarly, we have the brewing process, which means preparation of coffee. That is like a method body. That is the method body. And eventually, we will be getting something back, right? When you click on cappuccino, you get the cappuccino coffee that comes into a cup of an empty cup, and you take it and you drink it, right? There is something called a return type. Here we are getting a return type as coffee. Like coffee drink is the return type. Okay, so output of the coffee machine or output of the method. Even when I say this is our method and we have something called void, this is the return type. So sometimes you return something from a method, sometimes you do not return something from a method. If you do not want to return anything, you just name it as void. If you want to return an int, make it as int. If you return a float, make it as a float. So these are the things. These are the things. I just gave you an analogy so that you can remember, what a method is and how you can correlate that with this one, so that you will get some real world picture of what we are going to learn. Now, enough of our theory. Let's jump into action of writing code. Action of writing code. Before that, I would like to give you some, maybe I'd like to give it to you. At the end, I'll be giving you the syntax. I'll be giving you the syntax, but at the end, I'll be giving you the syntax. Now, let me go and try to write one example. Let's start writing an example. Let me close this. I'd like to say Control N. I'd like to say Control N, and and here I'd like to write. I would like to write one one class. Say class. I would like to call it as my class 1. Okay. I'd like to make it as my class 1. So language is Java. My language is Java. I opened the parenthesis and then I closed the parenthesis. So let me quickly write down my main method. Public static void main. Okay. So this is my main method. And inside, what are my parameters? It is string array of arguments. String array of arguments. Okay. So I'd like to open my parenthesis and close my parenthesis. And here, and here, and here, what do I need to say? I'd like to say system dot out dot println. So what do I want to print? I'd like to say main method starts. Method starts. So I do not have anything else. Maybe I do not want to have any other logic. I'd like to just say main method ends. Okay. I would like to just say main method ends. Main method ends. So main method is starting and main method is ending, and nothing else is being done as part of this class. Let's try to quickly compile this and run this one. Okay. So let me go to Mercy 2025. So here you see when I say date modified, did I save this one, by the way? I did not save this. Okay. File save as in the Mercy 2025. I want to save this as .java file. Okay, this is all good. Now I want to go here and see if I have my Java file or not. Yes, I have my class 1. So I'd like to say cmd. So I'm opening the command prompt here. Let me try to compile the Java class that I have written. It is Java C class name dot Java. So when I do this, a dot class file will get generated, and I want to see the output. Java my class 1. So when I say enter, main method is starting. There are no other operations in middle, and main method is ending. That's it. Main method is ending. Main method is ending. Main method is ending. So that's it. We do not have any problem whatsoever over here. Any problem whatsoever over here. So, sir, we have already learned about this, right? Why are you teaching it again to us? You might have a question like that. So here I'd like to actually teach you a little bit more, right? So I want to have a method defined. I told you if we have a set of actions, then we can put all of those into a method, right? Right? So what I want to do is, I want to initialize DB connections. This is my task. There might be multiple set of operations involved, but this is my task. So for this, maybe I can uh, write a method. So I would like to call it as public. I want to use a static method. By the way, I'll be telling you what the static is and what are the additional things that we need to remember. But for now, I'd like to say static, public, static. There should be a return type. Let's say I call it as void, and I would like to call the method as init. Okay, I would like to call the method as init, and then open parenthesis and then close parenthesis. Open parenthesis and close parenthesis. So I have a init method. What do I need to do? I need to initialize the DB connections inside my init method. Right? So we have logic to initialize DB connections. We have all logic to initialize DB connections. Now I'm not teaching you how do we do it, but let's assume that there is a logic to initialize the DB connections over here. That's it. And this method contains only that. So let's say if we are done with all these DB connections, we would know that the DB connection is successful. I want to just write system.out.println. I'd like to do something like this. DB connections established, or let's say initialized successfully. Okay. So DB connections are initialized successfully. So we have an init method, and we are saying DB connections are successfully initialized. Okay, fine. I'd like to save this class. I want to run this program once more to see what is the output. Okay, I'd like to say, okay, I'll say Java C my class. Sorry, let me copy my class one dot Java. So when I do this, yes, my code is compiled Java, and then I want to run this. When I say, oh, you see this here? We just have main method starts and main method ends. But we have written one more system.out.println statement, right? System.out.println statement is written and it is not getting called or we are not getting printed. What is the reason? Let me go to my notes. Okay, I have not written anything in the notes as well. But let me go to my picture. Right? I have a main method, and inside main method, I wrote system.out.println statements. Main method starts and main method ends. JVM calls that, but I have a new method called init, right? Init, right? But this is not getting printed, which means nobody is calling this, right? Nobody is calling this. I've written the main method. That is fine. It has some logic, but nobody is calling it, right? Nobody is calling it. So I would like to call. I'd like to call. I'd like to call init. That's it. I would like to call. Okay. So let me write the comment saying calling init method. So I'm just calling in init method and it is directly calling. I'd like to tell you what is indirectly calling or calling using a class name in the little bit later, but you just remember we are directly calling the init method. We are directly calling the init method, which means when the control comes to line number 6, it would go and call my init method. And once init method is completed, it will go back and say, okay, I'm done with my init method. So there is one more line called main method and this should get printed. Now let's, I have I have saved this class. I'd like to run this once more. Java C my class one dot Java. Yes, there is no compilation error. Java my class one. When you see now the main method has started. Here you can see DB connections initialized successfully, and then the main method ends. You see this. Then the main method ends. The point that I wanted to make is previously we do not have this line printed. Why? Because we have the method, that is fine, but we have not called it anywhere. Now we have called it on line number 6. Line number 6. JVM will call the main method. It will come and print this line, which we already got. Now it will go to the next line. By the way, whenever there is a commented line, compiler ignores it. That I have already told that to you. Okay. Now it will come to this init method. The init method, the control will come to line number 10. Okay. And then we have this line number 12. On line number 12, we have one system.out.println statement that gets printed. Once this is done, we will go back. We will go back to the line number 6. We will check if there is anything else to be done. There is no other thing. So come to line number 7, print it, and that's it. Print it, and that's it. That's it. So you can see this. We have written an init method and we are able to establish the connections properly. Now, sir, what else can we do in this class? What else can we do in this class? So, or before I even go further and do something in this class, I'd like to write a few rules. So that whenever we write the code next time or whenever we improvise this class, you would get all the ideas. Okay, you'd get all the ideas. So I'd like to say if static keyword, or even before I write even the rules, I'd like to give you some. I would like to give you some uh, notes related to the static, the what do you call notes related to the syntax. Okay, so let me copy this. And I would like to paste it over here. Oh, sorry. Maybe I'll be sharing this syntax to you as part of our class notes. Okay, but you just remember this is the syntax using which we have written the code. We have the access modifier. It can be public, private, protected, or default. I'll be speaking about the access modifiers in the upcoming classes. We either can have static or we do not have static. You can either have static or you do not have static. If you have static, then that becomes a static method. If you do not have a static keyword, then that becomes a non-static method. And then a return type, I told you, we can return a int, float, double, or whatever data type that we want. If we do not want to return anything, we can write void. Okay, and then the method name, we have main method, init method, process method, destroy method, all these things. We have to write the main method, and then arguments, we have the string array of arguments, etc., etc. So one such example is public static void process, and you have the initial int id and then code to process. Okay, so similarly, we have non-static methods also. This is the syntax for it. And here the only thing that is missing is in a static method, there is a static keyword. In a non-static method, there is no static keyword involved. Okay, that's it. One such example is public static process and then the code to process. Okay, this is the syntax for static method and non-static methods. For static methods and non-static methods. Let's go to some important rules. Since we have already learned about the syntaxes, let's go to the important rules. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so let's go to some important rules. I'd like to take this slowly because this is very important for you. This is very important for you. So let me take it slowly. Let's try to write one what do you call it? Rule one by one. Okay, I'd like to say what is my first one? With my first one, it says if static keyword is present, then it is a static method. Then it is a static method. If we have the static keyword present in a method name, then that becomes a static method. Okay. Then what about if no static keyword is present? Then it is non-static method. Or you call it with another name, you call it as instance method. Okay, you call it as instance method. You call it either as a non-static method or a instance method or a instance method. So like what is static? Static means it belongs to class. Okay, it belongs to class. It belongs to class. So what I want to say is non-static, it belongs to instance or object. So if you do not understand what is an instance, what is an object, that's fine. I'll be teaching you in depth in the further classes. But if you see something that is non-static, you think that it is not specific to a class, it is specific to an instance or an object. Instance or an object. So another thing is method should always have a type. Return type. Method should always have a return type. If you do not want to return anything, then have void as a return type. Okay, so if you do not want to return anything, then you just have void as your return type. Return type. Now, let's go to the next rule, or you can say next important point that you need to be aware of. What is that? What is that? Method can take 0 or more arguments. Okay, so there is no restriction from Java side to have how many arguments inside a method. Okay, there is no restriction from Java side to have any number of arguments inside a method. You can either have 0 arguments or you can have any number of arguments. But as a programmer, it is not recommended to have too many arguments for a method, right? Even though Java is allowing it, right? As a programmer, as a decent or a trained programmer, we shouldn't have too many arguments inside a method. There is a rule also that is defined, but that is not a Java rule. That is something like a Sonar. We have some static or compile time analysis, static code analysis tools, which are called as uh, Sonar Lint or Sonar Cube, etc. These are some third-party applications. They will flag out that you did not write the good code if you have too many arguments to a method, right? But let's not delve into all those details right now. Just remember that there is no restriction for you to write any number of arguments. But as a good programmer, you shouldn't be having too many arguments for a particular method. You cannot say that, okay, I'll have 25 arguments. The code doesn't look good at all. Okay. Then you would ask, then what to do, sir? Maybe as you learn more coding, you would know what to do. Okay. I'm not going to those discussions right now. Those discussions right now. And and what is the next important point? Let's say you, or I can say we have to call the method for it to be executed. We have to call that method for it to get executed. Okay, we have to call that method. Okay, uh, all the statements inside that can be executed. Okay, then another thing is another thing is another thing is I'd like to say inside a method we can have code to call other method. Method need not just have some system.out.println statement, not like that. Method can even have code to call another method also, just like how we have a main method and we are able to call init method, right? So similarly, init method can have some other code to call the other methods. So that is a chained process. There is no restriction for you in that. Okay, okay. And there you can ask me one more thing. 0 or more number of lines can be, sorry, lines, lines can be in a method. So there is no restriction that, if you write a method, you have to write some piece of code for sure. It's not like that. You can leave the method just like that. You might ask me a question. So then why do we need to write a method? I'm just telling you that Java is allowing you to do all this. There are there are requirements or there are some special use cases where you can have an empty method also. I'd not like to go to that point because that requires understanding of some other concepts. But right now, you just remember that you can even have methods with 0 lines in it. 0 lines in it. Okay. So, and then the last point is we can call static methods in 2 ways. Okay, we can call static method in 2 ways. One is we have already called, that is directly call using method name. Using method name. And the other is call and the other is call using class name dot method name. Okay, call using class name dot method name, or maybe I'd like to do it in this way. Call using class name. Okay, one, then close. Like to take this, open, and then close. Okay. So call directly using method name or do this. Directly using method name, or you can call by class name dot method name, which we'll be seeing in our further class today. Okay, so I'll be telling you now. We are well versed with all these 10 rules, you can say, or information, you can say, with all these details. Now let's try to improvise the same class once more. I would like to add more things to our class that we have already written. Okay, let's try to do that. Let's try to do that. Let's try to do that. Now, let me add one more method. Let me add one more method, and I would like to call it as, or instead of writing a destroy method, maybe I'd like to write two more methods. One is, one is, one is a process method. One is a process method. Process method. Sorry, a process method. I'd like to say tasks to be done. Okay, I would like to call it as public static void process. Okay, I'd like to say open parenthesis and close parenthesis. Okay, so here I'd like to have the steps to be done. Okay, list of steps to be done. I'd like to have all of these in process method. Okay, process method. Let's say we are able to complete the process method successfully. The process method successfully. So I'd like to say before this, I'd like to say system.out.println, system.out.println. I'd like to say process method, process starts. Okay, I'd like to say process method starts and list of steps to be done. And once I'm done with that, I'd like to say process method ends. Okay, I'd like to say process method ends. Process method ends. Now, once I'm done with my initialization part, I would like to call, the process method, So how do I do it? I'd like to call it once I'm done with my initialization part. So let me say process. Okay, I just say process. So what I did is I have written an initialization method. So it will initialize my DB connections. Then I'm calling my process method. What is the process method doing? Process method has a list of steps to be done. The process method will start. It will do all the steps, and finally process method ends. Okay, I'd like to see if this actually works. If it actually works or not. I'm calling the init method. I'm calling the process method. Let me directly go here and say, okay, I've cleared the screen. I'll say Java C. I would like to copy my class name. What is my class name? This is my class one. This is my class one dot Java. Okay, so when I do this, it is able to compile successfully, and I want to run this. I'd like to say my class one, and you can see the main method has started. In the init method, we are able to get the DB connections. From that, what we are doing is we have started the process method, we have ended the process method, and finally the main method ends. I'd like to copy this and would like to show you just, I'd like to show you the output as well. Okay, so main method has started. Somehow on this one, the main method has started, which is very good. Now we are calling the init method. The control comes to init method, and then this line should get printed. DB connection initialized successfully. This should be the second line. Is this a second line? Yes, this is my second line. And once I'm done with DB connections, the control will go back to the caller. Okay. Now we are going to the process method. Into the process method. The next line that should print is process method starts. Is this the one? Yes, the process method is started. Now it is done with the list of steps. Now the process method is ending. Yes, the process method ends. Now who is calling process method? Process method is called from main method. I'm done with the process method execution. Then comes my system.out.println, main method ends. Let's see if the last line is main method ends. And yes, bingo, we are able to see all the methods or the lines, all the methods, both the methods are getting called and all the lines are getting printed in the sequence. All the lines are getting printed in the sequence. I'd like to write one another method. I'd like to write one another method and would like to see what is I would like to conclude the class for today. Let's try to write one more method. One more method. What is that? I'd like to say we have written the initialization part, right? I'd like to write a method called destroy. Okay. I'd like to destroy DB connections, initialize DB connections, right? I'd like to say destroy DB connection, destroy DB connections. Okay, I'd like to destroy the DB connections. For that, I'd like to write a method, something like this. I'd like to say public static. Instead of returning void, I'd like to return something called int. Okay, int destroy. Okay, I'd like to say destroy. So I open the parenthesis and then I closed the parenthesis. I open the parenthesis and closed the parenthesis. So here, here, what does this contain? It will contain logic to destroy DB connections. DB connections. It contains the logic to destroy the DB connections. Destroy the DB connections. So what is the logic that it has? Let's not even go into those parts. Let's not even go into those parts. But I'd like to just have one simple system.out.println statement. I'm copying this and then I'm pasting it over here. And I would like to say, DB connections destroyed successfully. So DB connections are destroyed successfully. And when the DB connections have been destroyed successfully, I want to return, let's say, return 0. Return 0. Okay, so maybe I'd like to write over here, say, if successful, say return 0. Okay, else return 1. So this is how actually I thought as a programmer. If the DB connections are destroyed successfully, then I'll return a number called 0. If not, I'll return a number called 1. So for now, I will assume that DB connections are destroyed successfully, and then so I'm returning a value called 0. Okay, I'm returning a value called 0, which is very good. So I want to call my destroy method also. I would like to call my destroy method also. Okay, so I would like to say, just for me to actually differentiate, I want to print something like this. So that the output looks more clear. I just want to print a few lines. Init method is done. And then I want to write a few lines. The process method is done. Now I want to call the destroy method. So destroy method. So I told you there are two ways of calling a static method, right? One is either using, I'd like to go to my rule, either using the method name directly or a class name dot method name. So let me go to the second way of calling it, right? It is class name dot method name. I just have called to show you the different way of calling a static method. Okay, so here it is returning me a value, right? Returning me a value. I'd like to say int, say x is equal to my class one dot destroy. So here, what I want to do is I want to print, something like this. System dot out dot println. So it is returning me a particular value, right? So let me say destroyed successfully. Okay, I would like to say return of this method. What is the return that is X. So I'm returning X, that is returning X, and I'd like to copy this line again and I'd like to paste it over here. So simple. I've written an init method. I call the process method and I'm calling the destroy method. Destroy method only has like if we are able to successfully destroy, then we'll be returning 0. If we are able to not successfully destroy, then we will be returning 1. But for now, I'm just hard coding it. I'm just sending the value as 0. Very simple. Very simple. Let's try to run this program and see if we are getting the intended output or not. Let me check if we are able to do all these things properly. Yes. So I'd like to say clear. Okay. So what is my class name? The class name is my class one. Copy. I'd like to say Java C class name dot Java. When I do this, yes. Now I'll say Java and then my class name. So here you can see I'd like to copy this. I'd like to copy this and I would like to paste it so that we can see the output one by one. So what is the first thing that the control JVM will call the main method and it will print main method starts. Main method starts. Okay, once again, main method starts. It is saying main method starts. So if you go here, it is going to the main method starts. Line number 37, we are printing the first line. That is fine. The main method starts. Let me minimize this. Okay. And then we are calling the init method. The control goes to line number 16. So here we have DB connections initialized successfully. Let's see if that is the second line. Yes, DB connections initialized successfully. We got that. We got that. We got that in the init method, right? In the init method. Now, since there are no other lines of code, the control is going back to the place where it is called. Now I have printed a few lines. I have printed a few lines. Let's see if I'm able to print the few lines or not. Yes, this is also done. Till here we are done. Now, after this, what happens is we are calling the process method directly. We are calling the process method directly. So here the process method starts and process method ends. There should be two lines around, right? Process method starts, process method ends. Now let's go back to the caller. Who is calling this process method? The process method is being called on line number 8. So after that, we are printing the dotted lines once more, the equal to symbols once more. Yes, we are able to print this. Now let's see what else is done over here. Now we are calling this using my class one dot destroy. This is a second way of calling. So I'm directly calling this destroy method. The control goes to line number 28, line number 28, right? And then using this one DB connections destroyed successfully. Let's go here. Yes, DB connections are destroyed successfully. And we are returning some 0. We don't have anything over here. Let's say I'm going back to my caller, which is destroy. And we are taking that value into a value called X, into a variable called X. And we are printing that return of destroy method. Let's say, yeah, return of destroy method. Yes, what is the return? We are returning 0. And then let's go back. Let's go back. After that, we are having dotted lines, and after that, we are having main method ends. So do we have dotted lines? Yes, we have dotted lines and we are having main method ends. So in this way, we are able to actually conclude that there are different methods and we are calling different methods using two different syntaxes, and we are capturing the return type of the method also, and we are printing. And we have seen how the control flows and how it goes to different sections of code the moment we call that method. So this is how we will actually understand how the code works. By the way, we have written almost like 34 lines of code, right, in a single class, which is very good. And we are able to write it just like that. We are able to do the hands-on coding right now, and we are able to play around with the same class. So I would like to urge the students to actually create classes like this, try to create methods like this, try to call the methods using these rules, try to play around with these rules, and try to get well versed with whatever we have learned for today. Whatever we have learned for today. So